Hello everybody, this is Andrew, and I have created a PowerPoint here to explain the KET exam. So I'm going to tell you about all the different parts and the different sections of those parts, and show you some examples of what you can see, and then give you some tips and some advice on how to do it. So let's get started. We're going to start with the reading and writing section. So the reading and writing is 60 minutes, 1 hour long. It's the longest part of the exam. There's 7 different tasks, 5 reading and 2 writing, and 32 questions total. So starting with part 1, it is multiple choice with 3 options, A, B, or C. And the task is you must read some short messages. They can be like emails, notices, signs, or text messages, for example. And there will be 3 sentences next to each message. And you just have to choose which sentence matches the meaning of the message. So understand the message and then choose the option that goes with it. So here's an example. We have, like, for this example, you can see, let's take this first. I'll take this number 5, for example. So we have like a phone with a text message on it, and then some options. What should Andy do? So you have to read what's on the phone, and then determine what is it that Andy should do. So how you should approach this, first you should read the text and decide the context, or for example, where or when could you see this message. And then you can also use the layout and the location to help you with the context. Like, for example, the example with the phone, if you see a phone and it looks like a text, then you know that this is just a text message. And then you should read all of the options, A, B, and C, and compare them all to the message before choosing an answer. It can help to think, obviously, why is this answer right, but it can also help to think, why is this answer wrong? Why is this incorrect? And then you can eliminate choices and make it easier for yourself. Because you have 3, and if you can eliminate 1, then you're down to just 2 options, 50-50. Or if you can eliminate both, determine that both are wrong, then the answer is obvious. So once you've done that, read the option you've chose again, just to make sure that it matches. So that was part 1. Now moving on to part 2. So this is multiple matching. And it's 3 options. So you have 7 questions and then 3 short texts, all about the same topic. And so you have to match each question to one of the texts. So not multiple choice, but multiple matching. So here's an example. So we have these 3 texts about people and what they have to say about school gardening competitions. So for example, number 7 says, let's see, whose class learnt about the garden competition from a TV program? So you have to look in this information and see who learned about it from a TV program. In one of these 3 options, it'll say something about a TV program, and then you just choose A for Amy, B for Flora, or C for Louisa. So how you should approach this, first you need to read each question to find out the information to look for in the text, like what exactly do you need to look for. And then you should quickly read the text to find the parts related to that question. So you can kind of read them fast and just look for the relevant information. So if we're looking for, like that example number 7, a TV program, just look for something that says about TV. And then before marking the answer, check the other texts to make sure they don't also answer the question. Because all three could say something about TV, but you need to find which one says that the class learned about the competition from the program, for example. So just looking for relevant information that best answers the question. So part 3, we have, again, 3 option multiple choice, A, B, and C. In this part, it's a longer text. It'll be, for example, like a newspaper or magazine article that you have to read. And then there will be 5 multiple choice questions, again with 3 options, A, B, or C. So here's an example. We have starting at a new school. So this is like a little article, a few paragraphs about starting at a new school. And then it's just multiple choice. So, and the nice thing about this is it goes in order. So like number 14 will be somewhere in the first paragraph, and then 15 in the second, and so on and so forth. So they go in order, so you can look for the information like that. 14 will be near the start, and 18 will be towards the end. So how we should approach this: first we should skim. To skim means to read fast. So just kind of not reading it word for word and pronouncing every word as best you can, but just quickly reading it without stopping much. And that'll give you the topic and the general meaning, and then you can read it again more carefully. So kind of read it first fast and then slow. And then look at each question and compare the options with the text. So, again, just like part 1, we can eliminate some choices with the process of elimination. Eliminating just one gets it down to just 2 options, 50-50. So try to determine, the right answer, but also the wrong answer to help you eliminate some choices. And then after you think you have the answer, check the other 2 and decide why they're wrong. So looking at it, why is this right, but also why are the other ones wrong, can help you really get the best answer. And then part 4, we have, it's 3 options with multiple choice close. So it's, by close it means fill in the blank. We're going to close the sentence by completing it. So in this part we have a short text with 6 numbered spaces, and the 3 options are the words that could possibly go into that gap. So we need to decide which word is the best word to complete the sentence and fill in the gap. So here's an example. We have, let's see, so number 19, it would say, however, there is a big blank between Wivenhoe and other hotels. So we would need to read all 3 options, change, variety, and difference, A, B, and C, and just see which one is the best to go in there. So how to approach this part? First we should, again, skim or read fast to find out the topic and the general meaning, and then work through the questions. We should read the whole sentence to find the best word. I think it also helps to read the sentence before the gap and the sentence after the gap to get more context. This will also give you clues based on grammar, like punctuation, or like tenses and pronouns. Like if the sentence before is in the past tense, then the sentence right after will most likely be in the past tense as well. So you could choose the option that's the verb in the past tense. Also things like pronouns, and just little clues from the grammar, similar things that can kind of point you in the right direction. And just like the part before, we can eliminate choices by thinking, why are these wrong? So don't just look for the right answer, but also look for the wrong answer to eliminate choices and make it easier for yourself. And then once you have all them complete, you can read the whole text again just to make sure that it all makes sense. Okay, and then part 5. So for this one, it's similar to part 4 with the open close or filling in the blanks, but you're not given any choices in this part. You have to think of the word yourself. And it's only going to be one word, so just try to think of one word that best completes the sentence and makes it make sense. Spelling does count, so try to spell it as best as you can. These texts will be short and simple, and again, only one word. So here's an example. Like it says, thank you, blank your email. So the only word that would make sense to fill that in would be for. Thank you for your email. So you would just want to read through these and think of the word that best makes sense. And how to approach this, again, we always want to start out by skimming, reading fast for the topic and meaning, and then just think of some possible words that might fit. And we need to also check the possibility with the meaning and grammar of the whole sentence and text. It needs to, the sentence needs to make sense, and the text needs to make sense. Spelling does count, and yeah, once you've completed it, read everything again to make sure that it makes sense. And just like part 4, you can look for little grammar clues, like read the whole sentence to look for things that can help you. And there's also will be common phrases, like just little things that you hear all the time, where only one word can make sense. Okay, so that was it for the reading, and now writing. We have 2 writing parts, part 6 and 7. So part 6 is a guided writing. Basically, you have to write a message of 25 words or a little bit more. It's definitely better to write more than less, but try to get at least 25. And this could be like a short little note or like an email, something like that. And it's guided, so they tell you what they want you to write, what questions they want you to answer, and then it's up to you to just write a couple of good sentences to answer all those questions. So for example, we have here, you're going shopping with your English friend Pat, so you need to write an email to him, and you need to say 3 things: where you want to meet, what time you want to meet, and what you want to buy when you go shopping. So these are the 3 questions you need to answer. 25 words or more. And so yeah, this is the guided writing. It tells you what to write. So definitely read the instructions very carefully. This is important. Before you start writing anything, you need to know what are you supposed to be writing. So definitely read the instructions and make sure you understand the task. You need to identify what kind of message is required, like an email or a note, and who is it for. So you can start that with dear blank or to whoever. Consider the information that's needed. That's those 3 bullet points, like what time you want to meet and what you want to buy, things like that. That's what you need to include. And respond to all 3 of the prompts. If they give you 3 things to say, make sure you say all 3 things. And it always helps to write a draft before writing. So this can be really quick, and you don't need to take too much time on it, but just kind of get some ideas on paper and then correct the sentences and make them better. So just start out getting your ideas on paper, and then you can move on and do the final answer. So here's an example, a good example response for that prompt. So you can start it out, "Hi Pat." So tell or say who you're talking to, your friend Pat. "I'm so happy to go shopping tomorrow." So just a little bit of context, you're talking about shopping, so you can say something about that. And the first question, "Where do you want to meet?" So we can meet at your house. Boom, right there. So that's one question answered. "What time you want to meet? Is 11 o'clock okay?" So asking him about a time, that's two. And then what you want to buy. Well, he says, "Then we can take a bus, but I want to buy new football boots." So just simply state what it is that you're trying to buy. And then a little farewell or a goodbye, like "see you tomorrow" or "see you soon." And then that's all three. So we answered all three questions. And so this would be a really good example. So it's very short. You just have to make sure that you're giving the information that they're asking. Make sure you answer the questions. So then part 7, this is another short writing, but it's based on pictures. So this one's a little bit longer, 35 words, and yeah, again, it's based on 3 picture prompts. So you'll see 3 pictures, and you have to write a short story based on those pictures. So here's an example. We have like the 3 little pictures here. We have some kids putting some food in a bag. We have them going to the park, and then some people swimming. So this would be an example. So how to approach writing part 7. Definitely read the instructions carefully first. Make sure you know what you're supposed to do before you start doing it. And then look at the pictures to identify what's happening in those pictures. Because whatever you see in those pictures is going to be the main events of your story. So you have 3 pictures, first this, and finally that. So 3 main events, 1, 2, 3. And that's going to be the information that's needed for your story. Whatever you can see in those pictures, that's what your story is going to be about. And you need to make reference to all 3 picture prompts. So if they give you 3 pictures, you need to talk about all 3. At least 3 of the sentences in your story will need to be talking about what you can see in those pictures. And then definitely write a draft, like a first version, before moving on to the final one. So the draft is just to get your ideas on paper, and so you don't forget anything. And then the final version is where you focus more on the details, like spelling, punctuation, and like more fine grammar points. So definitely start with a quick draft and then write the final version. So here's an example response of that based on those 3 pictures. So last Saturday I went to a picnic with my friends. First we put the fruits, sandwich, and orange juice in my bag, then we went. So that's talking about that first picture. So that's 1 out of 3. And then when we arrived, we ate on the ground. And that's in the second picture. In the second picture, we can see the kids sitting on the ground and eating. So we need to mention that. When we arrived, we ate on the ground. And then Tom and Lucy went to the lake, and Michael and me saw them. So in the third picture, we see 2 kids in the water and 2 kids looking at them. So just say what's happening. We saw them swimming in the lake. So yeah, and it would be good. You can put this in first person, like I went. My friends, we saw them. So put it in your own perspective, like you're one of the kids in the story. So you can use first person to talk about yourself in the context of the story and talking about these 3 pictures. Okay, now moving on to the listening section. So the listening is 30 minutes, more or less, and you'll have 6 minutes at the end to transfer all of your answers to the answer sheet. So a little bit of extra time at the end. There's 5 tasks and 25 questions total. So part 1, we have, again, 3 option, multiple choice. So in this part you'll hear 5 short recordings, each with a question, and then 3 images. And the images are like your choices. So you choose the picture that answers the question. So you listen to the text and then choose the image that best answers the question. So here's an example. So in this first picture it says, what's Julia going to do tonight? So in our options are 3 pictures of what she's doing. So like option A, going to bed, option B, going to a party, or C, studying. So you listen to the person, and one of those answers is what she's going to do. So to approach this, we need to read the question and then look at the 3 images. And just kind of the same way we identified what's happening in the pictures for the second reading part, you need to identify what's happening in these pictures. Like in that first example, going to bed, going to a party, or studying. So just see what each picture is saying, basically. And so during the first time, well, because they're going to read it twice. Every listening you get 2 times. So the first time, listen for some specific information and try to choose the best option. Try to answer it on the first time. So then the second time, you can check that your answer is correct, and like just listen more closely and make sure that it's correct. So try to get it on the first time, and then use the second time to double check. So part 2. In this task, you must identify specific information. For example, it could be like a price, like how many euros or how many pounds, a time, a telephone number, things like that, and then we need to write it down. So we're going to listen to a monologue, which is just one person speaking, and then we write down one word, one number, one date, or one time for your answer. So here's an example of that. So this would be a monologue. Oh, you will hear a teacher telling students about the school camping trip. So he's going to give us all this information, and we just have to listen to it. So he's going to tell us, who do we need to give the money to? What day do we return? What time to travel or to arrive at school? So he's going to say all these different things, and we just need to listen closely and write down the correct answer on the blank. So, read and listen to the instructions like always. And they're going to give you a little pause to read the title and the questions. So you can read the questions and think about the context. Also, you can start to think about what information you need to be listening for. During that first listening, listen for that specific information and write it down. So try to get it on the first time. When you read the questions, you already know what you're listening for, so just try to focus on that information. If he's talking about the cost of the trip, just pay attention and think of, listen for like money words, or words related to prices or costs. And let's see, the spelling does count for this, so definitely try to spell it right the first time. And then on the second listening, we can check to make sure we got it right. So try to get it on the first try, and then the second try, we can double check. So part 3, this will be an informal conversation, so just like 2 friends, for example, talking about something casual. And we have 5 multiple choice questions, each with 3 options, so A, B, or C. And it's two people talking, so the answer could be from either of them, like the first or the second speaker. And these questions focus on attitudes and opinions of the speaker. So like, what do they think? How do they feel? What is their opinion about this? So here's an example. You will hear Annie talking to her friend Tony about a film she saw. And let's see, like for 13, Annie thought the film was too long, wasn't interesting, or needed better actors. So that's her opinion. So at some point, Annie is going to say what she thought about the film. So we need to be listening for that. So again, just read and listen to the instructions very carefully, um, and to understand the context of the conversation. They're going to tell you what are they talking about. Um, so for the first time, try to, again, just like the other listening parts, try to get it on the first time so then we can use the second time to double check. So just listen carefully the whole time. And then part 4 of the listening, this is going to be 5 short monologues or dialogues. And they give you a scene setter, which just basically tells you the context, a question, and then 3 options. So we need to listen and choose which option best answers the question in the context of what you've heard. So here. So here's an example. Like 16, the scene setter would be, you will hear a teacher talking to her class. So you're going to hear a short little clip of a teacher talking to the class. So now you have the context. And then make sure you read the question before so you know what you're listening for. What does the teacher want her class to do? Either work more quickly, make less noise, or help each other more. So definitely read the question and all of the options so you know what you're listening for, what you have to pay attention to. So again, read the options and questions, or yeah, questions and options for each question. Try to get it on the first time, and then the second time, check that it's correct. And then part 5 of the listening, this is a longer conversation between two people who know each other, so close friends. And we're going to have um, 2 lists of items, and we have to match items on this list from simple information in the conversation. So it's kind of matching between 2 different lists. So here's an example of that. You can see the 2 lists here on the left and right. You will hear Julie talking to her mother about a school fashion show. What will each person help with? So we have 5 different people here and a few options of what they could help with. So like Anton, what is he going to do? Is he going to bring clothes? Is he going to make the food? Emma, what's her job? Will she do the lights? Will she do makeup? Is she in charge of music? Things like that. So you have to listen for the person's name and then match, what they're going to help with. So match the options on the right to the person on the left. And how to approach this. So we want to read and listen to the instructions, like always, to get the context of the conversation. Like what are they talking about? And yeah, so all of the words in each list, like for example, will be they'll be from the same category. Like on that example we just saw, all the lists on the left, they were all names, and the list on the right, they were all jobs. So each list is going to be the same like category. And then yeah, um, try to get the gist The gist is like the main idea, so try to get the main idea on the first listen, and then the second time we can use it to double check and make sure that we got the right information. So now let's move on to the speaking part. I've worked with a lot of you on speaking when we were still at school, like face to face. So a lot of you know about the speaking already, but I'll just do a quick review of it, just as a reminder of the different parts. So this is about 8 to 10 minutes, and there's only 2 tasks. So part 1, it has 2 different phases, or 2 different like sub parts. So phase 1, the interviewer will ask you questions of a factual or personal nature. So just questions about yourself, basically, or things to do with you personally. And then the second phase is like an interview. It's based on a certain topic. So they'll tell you the topic and then ask you questions about that topic, and they're pretty short. It could be about like your daily life, your interests, things you like and dislike. So a couple short questions like that, and then a longer question that will start with, tell me something about. So for example, they could say, tell me something about your favorite sport, and they would want you to talk for a little bit about your favorite sport. And then phase 2, continued, you talk directly to the person giving you the test. You don't talk to your partner in this phase, just to the test giver. And this part lasts about 3 to 4 minutes. So it's normal to feel nervous before these speaking parts. Being in front of the person giving the test can make you nervous, so don't worry, that's normal. So just try to use simple everyday language to get comfortable and settle into the test. It's easy to feel nervous, but try to just, you know, get into the test slowly and get more comfortable. So definitely listen carefully to the questions and give relevant answers. And if you don't understand the question, you can always ask them to repeat it. Make sure you understand the question before you give your answer. And definitely avoid giving one-word answers. You want to try to say as much as possible. So you can always, at the start of your answer, use part of their question in your answer. Like for example, if they say, what is your favorite sport? Then you can start your answer with, my favorite sport is football, for example. Don't just start with the word football, because you can make it even longer by using part of their question to begin your answer. And then at the end of your answer, you can give reasons and examples whenever possible to make it even longer. So, for example, for the question, what is your favorite sport? A bad answer would be football, full stop. That's very bad and very short. So we want to say more at the beginning with, my favorite sport is football, and make it longer at the end by saying, because I'm very good at it and I can run around with my friends, or something like that. So just try to make your answer as long as possible and avoid those one-word answers. These are some different topics, possible topics for the part 1 of speaking. So you have a couple lists here of some things that they could potentially ask you about. So they could say, let's talk about clothes, or let's talk about food and drink, let's talk about travel, things like that. So just be familiar and comfortable speaking at least a little bit about these different topics. So here's like the script that you can see that they're going to ask you. They'll introduce themselves and then ask you your name, ask you your age, how old you are, and where do you live. So that's just the first part to get you kind of warmed up and comfortable. And then here's an example of phase 2. So here's the topic, school. They want to talk about school, so then they'll ask you a couple short questions about school. For example, what subject do you like best, and what clothes do you wear to school? And then the extended response, the longer question. Tell me something about the homework you have to do, for example. So they would want that answer to be a little bit longer. So just avoid those one-word answers and try to give reasons and examples if you can. And then, so they're going to give you 2 different topics. In this example, it's school and home. So you'll have 2 questions, well, 3 questions in total about school, and then 3 questions in total about home, for example. So that's phase 1 and phase 2 of part 1. So here is part 2 of the speaking. This also has 2 phases. In the first phase, you're going to be speaking with your partner. So this is a discussion or a conversation between you and your partner, and it's based on 5 illustrations that represent a topic. For example, hobbies. So they'll show you 5 pictures of different hobbies, for example. And then you will be asked to talk with your partner about those pictures, about, in this example, types of hobbies. So this lasts for about 1 to 2 minutes, and then after that they'll ask you a few questions about the topic that you just talked about. And then in phase 2 of part 2, the person giving you the test will, you'll have a follow-up discussion on that same topic. So basically just even more questions about the topic that you just spoke about. So first, in this example, you'll speak about hobbies, and then they'll ask you questions about hobbies, for example. So how we should approach this, so you want to look at the illustrations carefully and identify the activity, place, or thing that they represent. So just like we did in the listening and also the writing parts with the pictures, we want to look at the pictures first and make sure we know what we're looking at. Like what is the picture representing? Like someone playing football or someone practicing an instrument, something like that. So determine what the picture represents, and then try to talk about all the pictures, saying which ones that you like and which ones that you dislike and why. So it's no matter the topic, it's basically expressing your likes and dislikes. So what do you like and what don't you like, and then give reasons. And the reasons can help you extend your answer. You can give details, examples, and reasons about why you like or dislike that activity. So that'll make your answers even longer. Again, try to avoid the one-word answers, but make them longer with all of these details and examples and reasons from your own personal life. You can also keep the discussion going by responding to what your partner says, or by asking them questions. So if they say something that you think the same, you can say, "Oh, I agree." Or if you're curious about something they said, you can ask them a question about that, like, "Oh, what do you mean by this?" So just try to make it like a natural, normal conversation that you have every day, but just in English and about a certain topic that they give you. And yeah, some possible topics for this phase can include your daily life, school, leisure activities, transport, like methods of transport, towns and cities, and holidays. So they could ask you about or the pictures could represent any of these things. So here's an example script of what they could ask you in phase 1. So they'll say, here's some pictures that show different hobbies. Do you like these hobbies? Say why or why not. So then you just look at the pictures, determine what each one represents, and just talk about whether you like them or not. It's all about your personal opinions and beliefs in this part. And so once you finish the discussion, after a couple minutes, then they'll go on and ask you questions about that. So in this example, they'd ask you questions about hobbies, like, do you think playing football is fun, or do you think painting is easy? So just answer those questions in complete sentences. Avoid the one-word answers, and try to use examples and details from your own life. And then they might ask you which activity do you like best. So you would just have to defend that answer. And then they'll ask you a couple longer questions, like, do you prefer to spend your free time alone or with other people, and why? So again, always give reasons. Never just give the answer, but you need to say why. And so here's an example of some pictures that they could show you. It'll say, do you like these different hobbies? And then you would just need to look at the pictures and determine that we have someone playing video games, someone playing music, playing football, reading, and drawing. So you would just talk about these 5 specific different hobbies for phase 1, and then just answer the questions as best as you can in complete sentences for phase 2. And that's that's the end. That's the end of the test. So yeah. And here finally I've just included a couple of examples of the speaking part. They're just, like short little YouTube videos of 2 kids like you, taking the Cambridge speaking part, or the KET speaking part. So if you're unsure of how the test is going to go, or you just want to see somebody else do it for an example, you can follow these links to YouTube and just watch an example to get more comfortable with it. Yeah, so that's all I have. That's every single part of the KET exam that you have coming up. So I hope this cleared things up and answered any questions or got rid of any doubts that you may have about the exam. So Christina and I and Virginia will be giving you lots of resources that you can use to keep practicing and get ready for the KET exam coming up. So thanks for listening, and good luck.